Plymouth at 4 degrees, whilst Aberdeen sits at 7. That's not a misprint. Cornwall colder than the Scottish Highlands. Is your area about to flip from wet chaos to unexpected cold, or are you one of the regions facing yet another battering from Atlantic storms? Right now, the Met Office has weather warnings covering the southwest, Northern Ireland, and parts of Scotland, affecting over 15 million people across the UK. And the forecast for the next 10 days, it is going to keep you guessing until the very last moment. Drop your city or county in the comments right now, and I'll give you a personalized breakdown in tomorrow's video. Let me start with what is happening in the next 72 hours for our major population centres. London, you are looking at 10 degrees today, dropping to 7 by Saturday with intermittent showers. Manchester, persistent rain this evening into tomorrow morning, temperatures holding around 6 to 8 degrees. Birmingham, you are in that battleground zone where rain could turn to sleet over higher ground by early next week. Glasgow, it's the hill snow that is your concern, with accumulations above 400 metres continuing through the weekend. Cardiff, brace for heavy rain tonight into Saturday morning with localised flooding possible. Belfast, you've got a brief respite today before another low-pressure system arrives Sunday evening. But here is what nobody is talking about yet. The models are currently showing something rather unusual developing for early February, and the latest runs from both the Met Office and the European Centre are starting to converge on a scenario that could bring proper cold to all of us, not just the Scottish mountains. We'll get to that in about 6 minutes. But first, let me break down exactly what is happening right now. At this very moment, we have a classic battleground situation playing out. There's bitterly cold air sitting over Eastern Europe, temperatures down to minus 20 degrees Celsius in some areas, and that Arctic air mass is tantalizingly close to our eastern shores. Meanwhile, Atlantic low-pressure systems keep charging in from the southwest, bringing milder air laden with moisture. The result, persistent wet weather for most, but snow over the Scottish hills, the Pennines, and higher ground in Wales and northern England. Starting with the southwest, and I'm afraid this is rather concerning for those of you in Devon and Cornwall. You've already had your fair share of rainfall, and the ground is absolutely saturated. Another weather warning has been issued for tonight through Saturday morning, with totals potentially reaching 30 millimetres. Exeter and Plymouth, heavy rain arrives around 6 o'clock this evening, with gusty winds reaching 70 kilometres per hour on exposed coasts. Bristol, 15 to 20 millimetres coinciding with Friday rush hour. Southampton, lighter rain on the eastern edge, temperatures 9 to 10 degrees. The Midlands are sitting in that transition zone. Nottingham, Leicester and Derby, you are looking at mostly rain through Saturday, but there is an outside chance of some wet snow mixing in over higher ground Saturday night into Sunday as colder air tries to push in from the east. Actually, I should be more precise about that. The UK model is showing temperatures at 1,500 metres dropping to around minus 3 degrees Celsius, which is right on that threshold where rain can turn to snow. The European model is slightly less cold, minus 1 to minus 2 degrees. That 2-degree difference might not sound like much, but it's the difference between a dreary wet Saturday evening and waking up to a few centimetres of snow on the cars Sunday morning across the East Midlands. Leeds and Sheffield, you are in a similar boat, with higher probability of seeing some wintry precipitation over the weekend. The Pennines will certainly see snow above 300 metres, with accumulations of 5 to 10 centimetres quite likely. Manchester and Liverpool, predominantly wet through the weekend, temperatures 6 to 8 degrees, but that easterly component to the wind developing Sunday into Monday is something to watch. Let me address the East Coast now because you are closest to that continental cold air mass. Newcastle, Middlesbrough and Scarborough, you are already feeling the chill with temperatures struggling to get above 5 degrees today. 4 to 6 degrees at best through the weekend, with a raw easterly wind making it feel rather bitter. There is also the risk of some coastal showers, and these could turn wintry at times, even at sea level. York and Hull expect cloudy, damp conditions through Saturday, then a gradual transition to colder, brighter weather Sunday into Monday. Right then, Scotland, Edinburgh and Glasgow, the worst rain clears Saturday afternoon, leaving brighter but cold conditions at 5 to 7 degrees. Glasgow stays cloudier longer, but Sunday looks better. Aberdeen, Inverness and the Highlands continue seeing hill snow. The Cairngorms have significant accumulations, brilliant for skiers, but the A9 remains challenging. Inverness temperatures 3 to 5 degrees, mountains staying below freezing with snow levels around 3 to 400 metres. Wales next. Cardiff, that rain warning is serious, 30 millimetres possible, real flooding risk in the valleys. Swansea, similar totals around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Brecon Beacons see snow above 500 metres. North Wales coast gets rain, while Snowdonia sees significant snow above 400 metres. Northern Ireland has the best conditions next 24 hours. Belfast, brief drier weather today before another low arrives Sunday evening. Derry catches it first around 6 o'clock Sunday. Temperatures steady at 7 to 9 degrees through the weekend. Now, at around the 3-minute mark, I want to remind you about those comments. If you haven't dropped your location yet, do it now. Tomorrow's video will include personalized updates for as many of you as possible. And honestly, I find it genuinely helpful to know where you are all watching from because it helps me tailor the content to what matters most to you. So we've covered the next 3 days in detail, but what about next week? This is where the forecast gets really interesting. The models are currently showing a shift in the pattern, and whilst there's still some uncertainty about the exact timing and intensity, the broad theme is becoming clearer. Currently, the Met Office model is showing low pressure systems continuing to approach from the southwest early next week, but with an easterly component developing to the wind. This is significant because it introduces colder continental air into the mix. The European model is actually more bullish on this, suggesting a fairly brisk easterly flow developing Tuesday into Wednesday, which would bring temperatures down quite sharply across eastern areas. Let me give you some concrete numbers for Monday and Tuesday. London, the Met Office model suggests around 8 degrees Monday, dropping to perhaps 5 or 6 Tuesday as that easterly wind picks up. The European model has you at 7 degrees Tuesday. That might not sound dramatically different, but the European model also shows that rain moving in from the southwest Monday evening, turning to sleet or wet snow as it bumps into the colder air over the Midlands and parts of East Anglia. Cambridge and Norwich, you are particularly vulnerable to this scenario. If it plays out as the European model suggests, you could see some disruptive snow Tuesday morning, not huge amounts, maybe 2 to 5 centimetres, but enough to cause issues during the morning commute. Oxford and the Thames Valley, you are on the knife edge, probably staying mostly as rain, but again, it's going to be really quite close. Birmingham and the West Midlands, the European model is actually showing you getting a proper period of snow Tuesday afternoon into evening. Now, before anyone gets too excited or worried, this is just one model run, and the Met Office model is less convinced. But the fact that the European model is showing this scenario consistently over the last few runs means it's worth watching closely. Hang on, let me check that again. Yes, the latest run from this morning is still showing that snow potential for the Midlands Tuesday into Wednesday. The difference between the models comes down to the track of that low pressure system and the strength of the easterly flow. A 50-mile difference in the lowest track changes everything for the Midlands and East Anglia, Newcastle and the northeast. You're already in the cold air, and it is going to feel properly wintry early next week. 3 to 5 degrees at best, and that S not accounting for wind chill. The easterly wind will make it feel bitterly cold, probably more like 0 to 2 degrees in the wind. There is also the continued risk of coastal showers, and yes, some of these could deposit snow even at sea level, particularly overnight. Scotland, and this applies right across the central belt and southern uplands, Monday into Wednesday looks properly cold. Edinburgh and Glasgow, we are talking about maximum temperatures of 2 to 4 degrees, and that S in the afternoon. Overnight, temperatures will drop below freezing quite widely, -1 to -3 degrees in many areas. Aberdeen, you will be colder still, struggling to get above freezing during the day, and overnight lows down to -4 or -5 degrees in sheltered glens. Inverness, daytime highs around 0 to 2 degrees, overnight down to -6 to -8 degrees in the glens. Wales and Northern Ireland, you are going to feel that temperature drop as well. Cardiff, from 10 degrees this weekend down to potentially 5 or 6 degrees by Wednesday. Belfast, temperatures dropping to around 4 to 6 degrees by midweek, and whilst that S not drastically cold, it is going to feel it in the wind and rain. Now that longer range pattern. The models are showing significant pattern change around 6th to 10th February. A blocking high over Greenland or Norwegian Sea would fundamentally change our weather, bringing Arctic air instead of mild Atlantic air. The GFS model shows northeasterly winds around 7th or 8th February. The European model agrees, perhaps a day earlier. The Met Office ensemble shows numerous scenarios with proper cold arriving early February. Proper cold means daytime maximums struggling above freezing, especially north and east. London might see 2 to 4 degrees, Manchester 0 to 2, Edinburgh -1 to +2. Overnight could drop to -5 to -8 across Scotland and northern England, -3 to -5 in the Midlands and southern England. With those temperatures comes snow risk, not just hills but lower levels potentially. Ensemble runs show multiple significant snowfall scenarios 8th to 12th February. This is 10 days out, forecasts will change. We expected very cold this week and it didn't materialize, but multiple models consistently showing this pattern suggests genuine possibility. The synoptic setup is conducive to cold air reaching the UK. Whether it happens, how long it lasts, how cold it gets, will firm up over coming days. Do check back tomorrow because the overnight model runs will give us a much clearer picture of that early week snow potential, and by Saturday or Sunday we should have a better handle on whether that longer range cold spell is definitely on the cards or if the Atlantic is going to reassert itself and keep us mild and wet. There's one location that could see something unexpected, and I'm going to hold back on revealing which one until I see tomorrow morning's high-resolution model runs. But if you are in the southeast, particularly Kent, Sussex, or Essex, pay very close attention to tomorrow's forecast. The boundary between rain and snow Tuesday could set up right across your area, and a tiny shift in the low-pressure track could mean the difference between a wet day and a disruptive snow event. Brighton and the south coast, similar story. You're very often just warm enough to avoid snow, but if that easterly really gets going and that low track's just right, you could be in for a surprise. Dover and the Channel ports, with your exposure to that easterly wind straight off the continent, you might be one of the first places to see snow if this scenario plays out. Uncertainty? For next 48 hours, very confident. Weather warnings issued, systems on charts. For Monday and Tuesday, moderately confident. Temperatures dropping, precipitation coming, but rain versus sleet versus snow still being determined. For longer range cold spell, genuinely uncertain. The European ensemble calculates roughly 40 scenarios. About 30 show below average temperatures early February. 15 show properly cold with widespread snow and ice. 5 or 6 show exceptionally cold, colder than recent years. But equally, some show Atlantic winning out, staying mild. That UK forecasting at this range. We are between cold continental air east and mild Atlantic air west. Which dominates determines our weather. Right now, cold air looks set to push westward early February, but we'll know much more by weekend. Portsmouth and Southampton, that easterly could bring unusual cold next week, 3 to 5 degrees Wednesday, feeling like 0. Oxford and Reading battleground zone for Tuesday. The M4 corridor could see difficult conditions if snow develops. Lincolnshire coast, very exposed to easterlies, bitterly cold. When winds from that direction, showers off North Sea could be wintry at sea level Tuesday onwards. Coventry, Wolverhampton, Stoke, all vulnerable to Tuesday snow scenario. Not certain, but worth monitoring. Bournemouth and Dorset probably stay milder, but even you could drop to 6 or 7 Wednesday. Penzance, warmest corner as usual, staying 8 to 10 degrees. Let me finish by looking at what this all means practically. If you've got outdoor plans for the weekend, pack layers, take waterproofs, and be prepared for it to feel colder than the thermometer suggests, especially in the wind. Driving conditions will be tricky across the southwest Friday evening and Saturday morning due to heavy rain. The Pennines, Scottish Mountains, and Snowdonia will have snow, so mountain roads need proper caution. For early next week, Monday and Tuesday particularly, keep a very close eye on the forecast. If you've got a long commute across the Midlands or East Anglia, consider checking the forecast Tuesday morning before setting out. Snow is possible, it's not definite, but it's possible enough to warrant contingency planning. Longer term, if that cold spell does materialize early February, we could be looking at widespread disruption, but equally, it might not happen at all. The models are giving us multiple scenarios, and that's completely normal for this time of year when we in these battleground situations between air masses. Tomorrow's video will focus specifically on that Tuesday snow potential and the latest on the longer range outlook. I'll also include personalized updates for anyone who dropped their location in the comments, so if you haven't done so yet, now's the time. I genuinely enjoy seeing where everyone watching from, and it helps me understand what aspects of the forecast matter most to different parts of the country. We in for a fascinating fortnight of weather across the UK, unsettled, changeable, and potentially turning properly cold. The next 72 hours will give us crucial clues about how the first half of February is going to unfold. Stay tuned, stay prepared, and I'll see you tomorrow evening with the latest updates. Thank you for watching, and do take care out there in what's remaining a rather unsettled